going to have Dr. Johnice Moore joining us. She's not in London right now, but she is stationed in London full time. But I'm Dr. Kimberly Mays, licensed clinical social worker, assistant professor here at Florida Gulf Coast University. And the goal of this guest lecture series is to basically provide you all with options in terms of the field of social work. Social work is a very vast field. And so the goal was to kind of have guest lecturers who are from all areas of social work practice, who can give us some insight and tidbits about how to tap into quote unquote non-traditional areas of social work. And so here physically in the class with me, we have graduating master level students. Say hello. And in the chat, in the Zoom room, all of you, thank you for joining us. And so without further ado, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, thank you. As Dr. May said, I am Dr. Johnice Moore, and I'm here with you all today to talk about international school social work. I am currently in the States. I'm in South Carolina this week for spring break, but I'll be returning to London on Monday. All right, so a little bit about me. We talk about our positionality as social workers, as individuals of practice. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm currently working at the American School in London. It's an independent school, which only means it's a private school. We serve grades lower school, middle school, and high school, so age 4 to 17, 18. It goes all the way through. In London, they actually call me a social emotional counselor. So that's my role there. But as a licensed clinical social worker, I'm able to put all my skills together and serve the students there. I am a returned Peace Corps volunteer. I served from 2006 to 2008 in Honduras, which is in Central America. I was on the north coast of the country. And thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I'm originally a native of Durham, North Carolina, born and raised. Spent the last 12 years in the upstate area of Anderson, South Carolina, near Clemson, if that gives you any reference point. I am a mother. That is my daughter in the middle, Madison. She's 5 years old. And again, I currently work and live in London, which is located in the United Kingdom. All right, there's my career journey. I like school. I've done it all. I attended Appalachian State University as an undergraduate student. I was located in Boone, North Carolina. My undergraduate degree is in Spanish and my minor is in business. Then I segued into the school system post Peace Corps. And I got a master's in public administration. I thought I was going to segue from the Peace Corps to Washington, D.C. and be in the United Nations and speak languages all day. But life, has its twists and turns. And so I ended up going back to school for Master's of Public Administration, did that for a little while, and then I transitioned to South Carolina. Then I went into school systems. That was a job that was readily available for someone who had a degree in Spanish. No one understood what public administration was in South Carolina. And so I segued into social work. I was a teacher. I taught English as a second language, did some work in special education, taught Spanish, did all the things in education for a good bit of time. But I was being pulled from the classroom a good bit of the time to do some interpretation, connecting students and parents to resources. And I was like, there has to be a degree that fits everything that I'm doing. And it landed into social work. So I got my degree from Rutgers University. It was an online program as well. And then a little while after doing social work, I think about 6 years, I said, I want to have more tools in my toolbox. And then I enrolled into Simmons University and completed my doctorate of social work August of 2023. So here I am. In regards to work experience, I feel like I have a lot of things under my belt. And I think it has contributed to who I am today and where I am today. Again, I mentioned I have worked in the North Carolina and South Carolina public school system as a teacher. I've done case management with the Department of Social Services as a liaison, worked in behavioral health, did drug and alcohol treatment. What else have I done? I have some notes over here. Been a field instructor for Liberty University, Winthrop University, University of South Carolina. Worked at South Carolina Vocational Rehabilitation, where I link high school students living with disabilities to work opportunities. I worked at a South Carolina managed care organization doing in-home health risk assessments for Medicaid and Medicare recipients 65 and older. So I've done a lot of things. One of the key milestones is going to link it back to international work. I moved to London August of 2023. I actually had my last class in my flat in London, August 2023. So just wanted to talk about some challenges faced in this career. It was not a linear journey to get to where I am today. And I always want to say, go where you are celebrated. So that transitioned me from, I was in Anderson County School District in Anderson, South Carolina for 6 years. And there was not really an upward mobility. If anyone knows a little bit about school social work, when they did the blueprint for school systems, social emotional support for students was an adjunct. It wasn't integrated into the system. So sometimes some places, I was one of 2 social workers for 20,000 students. So imagine that, jumping all over the district, 22 schools any given day. That was not sustainable. Again, go where you are celebrated. There was an opportunity to, like I say, move across the pond, and the student ratio, I'm one of 2 school social workers or school counselors. There's 520 students. So we fit the model for student to counselor ratio. Again, LCSW, I finished my license as a master level student at Rutgers. That license clinical part, though, that was challenging just because I was in the school system and there wasn't a lot of interaction in regards to, because I wasn't in the clinical piece, I was doing more of the case management. So there were some barriers into receiving that clinical piece, that integral part that you need to move forward in that licensure. So through supervision, through peer supervision, I was able to obtain that license, and which opened up many doors for me. Again, another challenge faced. I was a cohort 1 at Simmons University in the Doctor of Social Work program. Life, comes at you. Again, life is not linear. So I was not able to graduate with my cohort, but it's in cohort 1.5. So persevered, moved forward, and finished what I had started. Another challenge faced social constructs. I want to talk about cultural constructs of motherhood and, the traditional wife role. I know Dr. Mays has spoken to you all about decolonization and referencing those terminologies, and just wanted to say that I now focusing on decolonizing womanhood. And that refers to the process of critically examining and dismantling the ways in which colonial and patriarchal structures have shaped gender roles and expectations, particularly for women. This involves recognizing the ways in which colonial power structures have marginalized and oppressed women, and actively working to reclaim agency and self-determination. Again, I'm sure you guys have spoke about many theoretical frameworks in class. Just want to share about the Black feminist theory is the primary theoretical framework which guides my life and helps understand the experience and perspectives of Black women. It centers Black women's experiences, particularly at the intersection of race, gender, and class, acknowledging our unique historical and social position. Black feminist theory also emphasizes the importance of self-definition, challenge both sexism within Black communities and racism within mainstream feminism movements, and validates Black women's knowledge and experience. So I want to encourage you to also look at some more theoretical frameworks in your free time: the strong Black woman schema, Afrocentricity, womanism, and critical race theory, just to name a few. All right, so get everybody out the way here. So the current work focus, again, I'm a school social worker, near and dear to my heart. I was just in Atlanta last week for the National School Social Work Conference. It was a beautiful experience to be amongst South social workers from across the nation in the South. I'm born and raised in the South. So school social work is a specialty of the school social work profession that is growing rapidly worldwide. Again, my role in London is a social emotional counselor. I'm at an independent school, which only means it's a private school. So the students there um, are from around the world, and they come to the American School in London for the international American curriculum, so the K through 12 curriculum. So we don't have the IB program, which is the International Baccalaureate, but we focus primarily on advanced placement courses. The students in my school, they're very interested in being in the top 1%. They come from the top 1% and they want to continue that legacy. So they have their eyes on Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Yale, and that is what they are striving to do. Excuse me. The day in the life, I'm an advisor to 15 students. That's part of the hat that I play. And so last year was my first year in London, and so I was assigned to seniors because, truth, honestly, my contract was for 1 year. So 6 months into my contract of 1 year, I was asked, did I want to stay on permanently? I interviewed again, and a panel of my peers have since extended me a permanent contract so I can stay, and it's renewed year to year as long as I want it. So that has been a blessing. Um, on day to day, I co-teach health lessons with my colleague who's also a school counselor, social worker. Signs of suicide. We do community circles, so we bring in that Afrocentric, indigenous um, practice into the school. We do a lesson on grief and loss. Grief and loss is not necessarily someone dying, but grief and loss because we have a transient population. A lot of our students are their parents work for the embassy. There's oil and gas. There's different NGOs, and sometimes, especially now due to our political climate, some visas have not been renewed, so they must stay for a little bit, or may have to return back to the U.S. or their country of origin. So grief and loss can look differently in different ways. Do a lot of one-on-one coaching, multi-tiered systems of support meetings every Monday and Tuesday. I have a seat at the table, which is something I did not always have in the US. So I'm very blessed to be in those spaces. And the SST is student support teams, and there's deans. So the equivalent would be of a dean in the US system would be maybe assistant principal. And so, and assistant principals in this setting over are over each grade level. So the 9th grade dean, 10th grade dean, so on and so forth. And so every Monday and Tuesday we get together, we triage students who needs interventions, who needs mental health supports, because we are school counselors, considered school counselors, school social workers. I am licensed, but we don't have the time in the day to do fidelity in regards to having sessions with students. So we do check-ins, check-outs, but we also lean on our community of private practitioners to support our students in their mental health. The difference between psychotherapists and social workers in the States, we are able to diagnose here. In the UK, they are not able to diagnose. They have to go to a psychiatrist to get that diagnosis and that treatment. The psychotherapists in the UK can do that one-on-one talk therapy, but it's very specific on who can do what. I'm also learning that. Here we go. Okay. So the benefits of an international career, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I told you I lived in Honduras from 2006 to 2008. And throughout my undergraduate career, I was able to do some study abroad programs with some professors. I studied abroad in China for one summer, for a couple Christmas breaks. I went to Mexico. I did at Appalachian State, we had alternative spring break. So I was able to see the world as an undergraduate student, which propelled me to go to Peace Corps, which propelled me to the life that I'm currently living now. So there are some benefits to living abroad. You get a cultural awareness. I'm not necessarily getting a different language per se, but in London, in the United Kingdom, there are some words that are different than the words we use here in the US. For example, rubbish is, trash, and bin is the trash can, and they're very particular for, you have to say things correctly. New culture, I want to say new climate as well. It is cold all the time in London. We barely get any sunlight. So we also have to educate our colleagues about seasonal affective disorder. It is real. It's a real thing in London. There's some colleagues who don't get to see the sunlight throughout the day because just the way the structure of the building. I'm blessed to have a window. I mean, even though I see this, I see the rain or the clouds every day, but it is out there. We encourage our colleagues to, take a walk and get outside because, seasonal affective disorder is true. It's a real thing. Um, Problem solving skills. I am in a well-resourced community at the American school, but problem solving, we're limited on the people at the table. I have a seat at the table, but there's limited spaces at the table in regards to that. And so we have to work together to bring my clinical skills, bring my social work skills, bring my skills from being in a public school system, which has served me well in these spaces where you think, oh, these individuals is well resourced, and so they have all the answers. And sometimes it takes grassroots experience, grassroots thought ideas to move the needle for the students. Self-sufficiency. Um, I'm able to travel more widely. This is a picture of Agadir in Morocco. This was a 3-hour plane ride for me, and I went for the weekend. It was for my birthday, and so we have those opportunities to be so close to many different places and be able to get there and get back relatively for a good price. There's universal health care in the United Kingdom, which means that anyone has access to the healthcare system. There may be a wait time, but for the most part, everyone gets treated the way they need to be treated and their needs are attended to. And that's part of being in the system. Adaptability. You have to be able to adapt to certain ways of life living in the United Kingdom specifically. I can only speak there in Honduras, but specifically in Honduras, specifically in the United Kingdom. I came from South Carolina where public transportation is, few and far between, but I am well equipped now to get on a bus, to get on the tube, to get on the fast train, to get on a plane, to get where I need to go. And there's a lot of walking, And again, if you're from the South or Southern region, we don't utilize a lot of the sidewalks. I'm at home now and there's no sidewalk, for example. So that has been an adjustment, but it's for the best, for the best. Where I live at in London, I'm on the fifth floor flat, and there is no lift, which is called an elevator. So, I'm getting my steps in every day. So that's, attesting to the adaptability and this ability to take risks and use initiatives. When I took this job, I'd never been to the United Kingdom. I had never um, been on that side of the world. And so this was, a big risk and, it has turned out to be phenomenal. And I'm appreciative of the experience. Some skills that's gonna bode you well in any position, international or domestic. Empathy for the students. When I've interviewed for this position, they were asking me about how would I navigate students who were living abroad, who were transient, and empathy. Students are students around the world. They're all dealing with some of the same issues as teenagers. Like I said, I work in the high school. So a teenager in the stateside is, particularly the same as student abroad. They're dealing with some nuances with, moving from country to country, but for the most part, teenagers have been teenagers, in my opinion. Active listening has been an important skill that has been useful in my line of work. The students that I interface with on a daily basis, again, are from affluent backgrounds, and sometimes parents are working doubly hard to maintain the status that they have, and sometimes students are, left with the nanny or left with the additional support staff and don't always get that one-on-one support. And so coming to school and having counselors such as myself and my colleague to sit and listen has been phenomenal for their growth and development. And collaboration is also important. I work with the high school deans. I work with the principal, assistant principal. There's I'm blessed to be in one building. There are lower school counselors, middle school counselor, and I'm one of two high school counselors. So we collaborate every couple weeks and get together. We're all in one building so we can pop by each other's offices and see each other when we need to. So that's been super helpful. All right, challenges of international career, because there's always pros and cons to everything. Like I said, I'm blessed to have the public transport, but sometimes it's not always reliable, or sometimes it only works on certain days, and there's things that happen with public transport. This is a picture of I took in November for November break. Would like to say in the United Kingdom there are a lot of bank holidays. So I think about every month there's a holiday, a long weekend, and maybe we get 2 long weekends. So really excited about that. So for Thanksgiving break, I was able to um, take a train actually to Paris and stayed a couple days with some colleagues. So that's another point about being international. The school that I work in, we're very close knit because everyone has come from around the world, not necessarily American, but from around the world, and we all get together because we are each other's support system. So it's always great to find your tribe. So homesickness is a thing. The weather is a thing. Like I mentioned before, being outside your comfort zone. Cost of living is fairly high in London. There are other international opportunities and international careers where the cost of living is on par with the U.S. and there's some places that are above U.S. in regards to living. Child protective services professionally has been a challenging aspect of my school social work career. In the States, we had a direct connection with the Department of Social Services in my small town in Anderson. I actually knew the director, knew several workers, but in a independent setting, I can only speak on my current setting. They're the safeguarding lead. So safeguarding is the equivalent of a child protective service, but there's a director of safeguarding. So there's something happening, child abuse and neglect, affluent neglect, which I'll speak on a little bit later. If that is occurring in the building, there is an internal person that, for lack of a better word, sift those out. And then if it reaches a threshold, then it's handled outside of it. But because of the nature of the clientele that we have, they try to keep a lot of things in-house, but obviously for, reasons beyond our control, we have to liaison with the outside resources to safely safeguard or protect children. Again, I work with affluent families and expectations. Sometimes the rubber hits the road in regards to our code of ethics, in regards to how we navigate the system. We're all licensed to complete suicide risk assessments, and then some families do not want you to ask their children, are you wanting to self-harm? Do you want to kill yourself? Things that we are been trained to ask students if they're having these types of ideations. Some families do not want to share that with other individuals in the building who are here to safeguard their students. So there's some ways to navigate the system, as we say, and then also keeping families' information protected, again, just who they are. When I say affluent, there are families at our school who are famous, they are diplomats, they are have secret services, around them. And so we have to be protective of confidentiality for sure. All right, so innovative things, mental health support to school social workers. We're addressing a lot of issues of anxiety and depression. Our students, for the most part, are living in multiple worlds. So there are students who are graduating this year who are now finding out about their acceptances to U.S. schools because that's their dream. But now they're being impacted about what's happening in the States in regards to visas being approved or denied, in regards to financial aid. Can they afford to live in the U.S.? Also regards to the climate. Picking a school now entails, are you able to access certain resources while you're there? Money talks, but if there is not availability of, for example, an abortion clinic, or you're not able to get certain resources in that state, so we're encouraging students with anxiety, just in general, to be up to date on what it is available, what resources are available. So we're having to navigate those systems as well. We do a lot of mental health supports with parents. We have a lot of parent coffee groups in the morning who come and they want to discuss anxiety. This is a high performing school that I'm particularly at. And so everyone is taking 5 advanced placement classes and putting all the things on their resume so they can be competitive with the Ivy League schools and to put their best foot forward. But when you fill up your plate and fill up your cup, you have to have some social emotional skills and some coping skills. And so that's where we get to come in and provide those resources for those families. I've talked about vulnerable children. Just because you have money does not mean you are not able to feel the effects of being abused and neglected. So we do have children in our care at our school who are experiencing these types of experiences, and so we have to address them as such. So we try to share with our colleagues about trauma-informed care and recognizing that impact that it has on the students. And again, technology impacts us from day to day. Students have their own learning device because of the school that we're in. We don't, like I came from a public school setting and every child was distributed a Chromebook. In our current setting, every child has to have a MacBook. And so they're on the system, the online system. So there's an individual who monitors that. And so when things are inputted on the technology, if they're writing a paper, if they're Googling something, how to harm themselves, they're writing a paper about something that has impacted them. So sometimes we get those reports as well, and we have to address those. So yes, they're learning online and have access to these tools and magnificent things, but there are occasions where we pick up on social emotional things that need to be addressed. Virtual counseling, we have an opportunity to host some of this virtual counseling in regards to having students who don't necessarily have to leave the building to receive their mental health counseling. So we have rooms on campus so they can access that as well. And use of data to inform practice. So we're always collecting data. We're trying to figure out how we can improve our best practices, how many students we're impacting with our services. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm on some interdisciplinary teams, which means that I have to work with everybody in the building to get my job done. On the top left, this is called the specific learning department. So the equivalent in our in the US is called the special education department. So that's the whole team. We dressed up for one, I think it was Halloween. I think it was Halloween. So that's over there. So we did that. So I work with administrators, the counseling team. We're cross-divisional. Like I mentioned, we're in the same building, different floors, obviously. And so we're able to collaborate. We work with psychologists. We have one for every division. Well, we have one for middle school and high school, and then one for the lower school, which is elementary equivalent. Work with lots of teachers now that they know we're here to serve the students. Sometimes we have a joke between my colleague and I do this adults and she does the students. So, but our doors are always open, and we're all on the safeguarding team, which means there's a portal, and the students and the faculty, they need to, because they're all mandated reporters, that they need to send in a report of the student that they have concerns about. And again, when we have mandated reporting, we say, you don't need to know all the facts and figures, but if you have a concern about a student, please input it on the portal and we will follow up. So again, weekly student support team meetings, interdisciplinary teams. We talk about students, what they need. I have the background a little bit in special education, so I'm able to share what tools or interventions are most likely necessary for students. We have weekly dean meetings. Again, we talk about students quite frequently, and as we should as a school. Teacher referrals, parent referrals, get a lot of phone calls from parents. We have a parenting organization. We also offer parenting classes on campus. So that's also, and then children, our doors are open. So they come in, make an appointment. It's very formal. It can be formal or informal. They can make an appointment on our Google Calendar or they can stop by. So why is collaboration important for your line of work? I couldn't do what I do without my teammates with the specific learning department, and then my colleagues at bottom right here from cross-divisionally. We do monthly supervision, which is important in our careers. And we have hired someone outside of our building to actually Zoom in and do that supervision with us because we think it's very important. Our school pays for that supervision. We're committed to it. We do case consultation. And we discuss strategies on how to help one another because you can't work in silo. That's one of our rules as social workers, even though we're cross-divisionally, and you can end up, being in your own lane. But the beauty of our network is we're able to see each other when we need to and collaborate, which is wonderful. All right, so career advice. Well, you all came to hear. So school social work specialty, I'm part of the International School Counselor Association, like I mentioned to you. There are social workers in the UK, but in my role, I am the part of the School Counselor Association. So there's some variations there. I feel like as a school social worker, like some clinical social worker, like some of you are, we bring a little bit more to the table and are able to, our expertise are actually leaned on more than actually school counselor. So there's a beauty into that. So I mentioned all the things that I've done prior to stepping into this role. So diversifying your portfolio, I think, is going to be a great idea in regards to if you're in field placement, try to diversify it. I know you may be interested in one line of social work, but diversifying and say, oh, I worked at, when I was in getting my master's in social work, I was at the Department of Mental Health and was able to work with a population of individuals who had been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and schizophrenia. That was, and I did that for a year. That was an amazing experience. My first day was a little scary because I was, had not encountered that population, but it boded well in the future when it was time to take the clinical exam, when it was time to discuss medication and psychotropic medication. And then it has transitioned to me being an international social worker when I'm at the table and people are talking about ADHD medication and anxiety and depression and Wellbutrin. These names travel across the pond. In most places, they have the same, not mostly the same name of the psychotropic medication. So that's going to be very beneficial if you are diversifying your portfolio. If you have a passionate belief that every student can succeed in as a school social worker in whatever population that you are encountering, if you believe they can succeed, then it will shine through. In regards to development, independent licensure has been a blessing. I'm glad that I was clinically licensed before I stepped into this role. It wasn't a requirement, obviously, but it has helped tremendously. I'm so glad that I finished my doctorate of social work before I entered this role, just because in the independent setting, students, to be, perfectly honest, they are paying, and I'll let you do the conversion later, it's £50,000 per academic year to attend this school. There are armed guards in front. It is locked down. So these individuals, these parents, they want a return on their investment. And so we have to come to the table as our best selves. So independent license, my doctorate has served me well. Having school social work experience internationally and stateside, I kind of finesse my time in the Peace Corps as my international experience, and then study abroad in regards to social work and peacekeeping to align with those goals. Crisis intervention and suicide risk assessments. In South Carolina, I'm trained as the behavior threat assessment and management. And then in a couple of weeks, I think in October actually, I'll be doing a training for the South Carolina Society of Clinical Social Workers in regards to suicide risk assessments and crisis intervention for those individuals who are clinically licensed. And then you can receive a CEU for that as well. Social emotional curriculum experience has been phenomenal in regards to sharing what I have done in my past experiences in South Carolina with different populations and how that has helped students move the needle in regards to merging their social and emotional and being well prepared for the future. I've led professional developments for colleagues stateside and at the international school. We talk a lot about self-care. Sometimes individuals in the building are so focused on, in which they should, their careers and helping the students, but we also want to be balanced as well. So we model that as well. I'm a great model of getting on a plane and relieving yourself and self-care. So all that led to me as my to my international school counselor school social work career. So you want to work abroad? How to do that? There's international school job boards, TES.com, ISBI, Global Recruitment Collaborative, and there's international career paths as well. United Nations, International Rescue Committee, Save the Children, World Health Organization, International Justice Mission, and these are all Googleable things. Women for Women International. It depends on which industry you want to go in. Today, I spoke a lot about international school social work, but if your passion and your heart is in United Nations and saving the children all over the world and helping advanced age individuals, Food for the Hungry International, there's an organization for you that is waiting to welcome you with open arms with your social work degree. And I think I spoke really fast, but that is my presentation for today. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much. This was good. Questions in the room, feedback? Questions on the Zoom? Yes, Hannah.
Question.
Make sure you speak up loud so she can hear you.
Okay, so I was gonna ask a little bit more about the Peace Corps and if there's like paid opportunities to work as a social worker in the Peace Corps, and then I have a couple other questions.
Okay, awesome. I'll start with the Peace Corps question. The Peace Corps is part of the United States government. It was a couple weeks ago, so you had to update and see what the government is currently offering. But when I did it in 2006 to 2008, the beauty of the Peace Corps was they paid for you to go abroad. Your housing was paid for, your food was paid for, you received a stipend, and you work for whatever entity you were assigned to. So I was a municipal development volunteer. So my counterpart was the mayor. And so I worked with the mayor and I wrote a plan with USAID, which is, again, you need to check on the status of these international organizations at the moment. But I wrote a plan with them and got latrines for my organization. I met a Canadian woman. I ended up doing some work with her. We're still friends to this day. So in regards to moving abroad with the Peace Corps, they got you.
And then so I know that you're working in the school, but I'm wondering how, like, your LCSW and your doctorate, how the credentials roll over in the UK for other social work programs, or even in other countries, kind of.
Okay, I'm only at liberty to speak about the United Kingdom and specifically the American School in London, and there are international American schools all over the world. So whatever the credential that you have in the US is going to be transferable to that international American school, again, wherever you end up. In regards to the credentials, I'm licensed clinical social worker and my doctorate. I am bilingual as well. So everything that I have obtained up until now has positioned me to be a better clinician, a better service provider, a better mentor, a better counselor to the students and the adults that I work with in the school setting. So anything you bring with you, any experience that you bring with you is gonna be beneficial. Did I answer your question?
Yes, and then, so is it a work visa, or do you get a passport for the country?
Yeah, so I already had a passport. You can get a passport anytime you want to, and you need one to go abroad. And in regards to the visa, so the company that I work for, the American School in London, they sponsored me. So I have a work visa and I'm considered a skilled visa just because I'm a school counselor, school social worker, and because of the credentials that I have, I'm considered a skilled visa. And so that's the one that they provided for me. They renew it every, however often it needs to be renewed. So I was only on a 1-year contract. So at the end of the school year, it had to be renewed. So it has been renewed for the next 5 years. And they pay for all of those fees.
Anyone else? In the room? Anyone in the chat? Please feel free to come off of mute and ask your question if you need to. Yes, yes.
What do you do for self-care besides traveling?
So that's a great question. So there are 3 things to do as well. In the UK, there are plenty of parks, there's plenty of green spaces, there's coffee shops, you can sit and, people watch. I'm on ClassPass, so I do a lot of jumping from studio to studio. I like to do, I have a Peloton in my flat in London, but I also like to go out to studios to ride with other people. I'm trying my hand in Pilates. That's very difficult, but I've tried. I do like to jump around on ClassPass and see other things in regards to health and wellness and fitness. I've joined a community of women, a wellness group. I actually joined them before I even moved to the UK because I knew I needed community. It's a group of women who prioritize their mental health. So I've been to some sound baths. I've been to yoga retreats. I actually last summer went to one with it was a Black girls hike, and we went and hiking. Spent like a couple days in a tent out in the wilderness, and escape from the world. So those are ways that I found to balance my mental health.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have you worked with people with disabilities as far as visual, deaf, mental disabilities? What route can a social worker do in that type of specialty? Absolutely. If you're looking into school social work, actually our school, it is well resourced, like I mentioned, but we're over 20% of students who have a disability, whether it be a physical disability, mental health disorder. There are ways to service those populations. And so we work with them individually. Everybody has an individualized plan of care, and we connect them to resources. If we don't have them in the building, there are resources outside in London that can connect them as well.
I don't know if I'm gonna phrase this question to make sense, but when it comes to feeling homesick and being able to kind of travel home, just because that's my biggest hesitation is, one, the flight for my dog would be very expensive. And 2, would just be like being able to get home often enough to see family and stuff.
You guys are located in Florida, correct?
Yes.
My colleague, her family lives in Florida. Her ticket was actually cheaper than mine to come to South Carolina. It's like $500, so very cheap to go back and forth. It's a direct flight. I'm not sure where in Florida you are, but her flight is direct from Florida to the UK. My parents live in Raleigh, Durham, so oftentimes I take that route. It's a 7-hour flight direct. We don't even stop. And in regard to your pet, there are many colleagues who have brought their pet and seem to be economical, and they brought their pets to the UK and they're well received. So yeah.
You have another question in the chat.
You being here, and I'm looking to get an international school coach work, but hopefully in the public health space. Is there any advice you can give? Yeah, obviously there are international companies abroad that have spaces for individuals with social work degrees to pursue different areas of social work. I'm actually in a sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and there's a chapter in the United Kingdom, and the women in the sorority are all American, and they have received their degrees from, across the spectrum of disciplinarians who work in public health. I actually have a soror in mind. She works in public health in the UK. I'm happy to connect you. But yes, there's opportunities all over. And there's a lot of US-based companies operating in the UK. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that you would get to really connect with some of the students and some of our colleagues in the chat via LinkedIn. And I know that for us in the classroom, the goal has been to connect with other social workers who are doing things just to keep community, but then also understand what's going on, what is available out there, and so you may get, oh no, they said you will get some connection requests on LinkedIn. Yes.
Well, thank you all, and please reach out on LinkedIn. I'm 5 hours ahead of you starting next week, but I'll be happy to connect with you if I feel like I can do two jobs, a US job and a UK job with the time zone, because you guys are fast asleep when I get to work. So yes, please reach out, and I would love to connect with you. Thank you, Dr. Mays, for this opportunity.
You are so welcome. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.